Good morning, a cold morning here at the Air Force Memorial at Runnymede. And today we're here to tell the story of some of the men that are commemorated here. The Air Force Memorial here at Runnymede contains the names of more than 20,000 men and women killed during the course of the Second World War who have no known grave. They come from all different parts of the Air Force: bomber, command, fighter, transport, coastal, flying training, maintenance commands. More than 20,000 named here. They come from all different parts of the Commonwealth, and there are also some people named here who come from other countries in continental Europe, countries that were invaded and occupied by the Nazis during the Second World War, who managed to escape and then came and flew as part of the RAF during the Second World War. We've talked about that before. We saw some Polish pilots, for example, when we were over at Brookwood Cemetery in the other video that we did over there. So today we're going to explore, take a look. We're in the middle of a Battle of Britain series, so we're largely going to be looking at some of the casualties named here related to the Battle of Britain, but we're also going to talk about a couple of other ones as well. So look, let's go and explore, and let's take a look at the Air Force Memorial at Runnymede. Okay, so as you approach the memorial here, it's quite a nice one. It's almost like you're walking up to a some kind of like a state building or something, but inside is where they have the actual kind of panels commemorating the men and women who are named here. Like we said, more than 20,000 of them. We're going to go inside and take a look, and we're going to tell these stories of a few of them that relate to the Battle of Britain that we've talked about in our last couple of videos. Let's go and have a look inside. Just as you come in on the right hand side, there's some wording either side. On the right here, they died for freedom in raid and sortie over the British Isles and lands and seas of Northern and Western Europe. And then on the other side, in this cloister are recorded the names of 20,000 airmen who have no known grave. Right, let's go have a look. So when you get inside here, some of this is like memorials that we're familiar with. There's a couple of little differences as well. In the middle we've got the Stone of Remembrance, which we see in pretty much all of the Commonwealth cemeteries or memorials. But what I quite like here is, rather than some of the big kind of stone panels like we're used to, they have these like smaller, more narrow panels with the windows in between. It's a little different. And actually I quite like it. Right, let's go find some of the people who we're here specifically to talk about. So we talked about some of the windows in the memorial here, where on the kind of front end, or the back end, depending how you look at it, is some of this view that you've got looking out across, well, not directly towards London, but sort of, we're kind of near sort of West London here. There's actually a viewing sort of gallery on the top of this memorial as well, which I believe we can access through there. We'll go and try and check that out in just a little bit. One of the things I love when you look around the memorial here is the artwork on the ceilings. I mean, some of this is just so beautifully decorated when you walk around here. You don't notice it when you first walk in, and then when you're looking at the panels, you glance up and you realise all the colour that is around on the ceilings of the archways and the walkways here. Beautiful. So as you come out on kind of one of the sort of outlets from the memorial into this room at the end, the first person we've come to see the name of here is Wing Commander Howard Peter Blanchford, DFC, and we're going to tell a little bit of his story. The DFC on the end of his name means that he is the recipient of the Distinguished Flying Cross. Wing Commander Howard Peter Blanchford was born in 1912. and he enlisted in the Royal Air Force in 1936. He was posted with several different squadrons, and in September 1940, during the Battle of Britain, he was flying Hawker Hurricanes. In December 1940, he was going to be awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross. So during November 1940, whilst leading the 257 Squadron, Howard Peter Blanchford was involved in some heavy combat. His squadron destroyed 8 and damaged a further 5 enemy aircraft. And during that battle, when he'd run out of ammunition, he was involved in 2 almost head-on sort of fake attacks against enemy aircraft, which drove them off. During that, he showed magnificent leadership and outstanding courage, and for that he was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross. Now, Blanchford wasn't actually killed during the Battle of Britain. It was later, in May 1943. He was involved in a mission escorting bombers towards a site in Amsterdam, and during that he became engaged with enemy aircraft, and he was shot down and killed. His body was never recovered, and that's why he's named here on the RAF Memorial at Runnymede. So here at Runnymede, all of the panels are actually organised into the order of year in which the casualties were killed. So we've moved slightly further round from the 1943 panels to the 1941 panels. And the next person whose name we've come to see is just up here. It's a little bit higher up, but hopefully you can see. We're looking at the name of Vernon Keough, nicknamed Shorty, who was killed on the 15th of February 1941. Vernon Keough was actually an American pilot who was flying as part of the RAF. He was one of 11 American pilots who flew with RAF Fighter Command between May and October 1940. At the outbreak of war, Keough and a few of his friends wanted to be involved, wanted to do their bit in the fight, even though at this stage America was not involved in World War II. They came over to Europe, to France, initially to join the French Air Force, but after the invasion of France and Germany took over, they had to escape to England, and they joined up and volunteered in the RAF, and that's why we had American pilots flying in the RAF during the Battle of Britain. Now, supposedly Keough was the shortest pilot in the RAF. I don't know if that's confirmed or if that's kind of a rumour, but either way, he was a short man. He was 4'10", hence he was given the nickname Shorty. And when he was flying Spitfires, he had to actually have a couple of cushions in the seat of the Spitfire to enable him to be high enough to see properly and be able to do the job flying the Spitfire. Now, on the 8th of August 1940, during the Battle of Britain, Keough was posted to Squadron 609, based at Middle Wallop, and he was involved in lots of missions between August and September during the height of the Battle of Britain. Later in September 1940, he was posted to RAF Curtin in Lincolnshire, and he was one of the founding members of the 71 Eagle Squadron. In February 1941, Keough was involved in a mission off the coast of East Yorkshire. He engaged with a Heinkel 111 and was involved in aerial combat. During that combat, the report suggested that he spun off out of control. It's not sure whether maybe he had some kind of oxygen failure in the cabin of his aircraft or perhaps if there was some kind of damage. But his plane went down and his body was never recovered. He was never seen again. Hence, he's named here on the Runnymede Memorial. Now, of course, we're in the middle of a Battle of Britain series at the moment, so we've been talking about airmen related to a lot of the fighter command. However, we're going to tell the story now of somebody who was in the bomber command, not necessarily directly involved in as much of the Battle of Britain as some of the other guys we've talked about, but we're still going to tell his story because he is the recipient of the Victoria Cross. Now we're back down into the little area where we came to look at the name of Blanchford, just here, and actually just below him we're here to look at the name of J.D. John Deering Nettleton, and you'll see he has the VC next to his name, indicating that he is the recipient of the Victoria Cross. Now, Nettleton was a South African officer in the RAF, and during 1942 he was involved in the Augsburg raid, and that's when he was going to be awarded the Victoria Cross. So on the 17th of April 1942, Nettleton was going to be leading 6 Lancaster bombers. As they crossed over the coast over France, they were attacked by German aircraft. 4 of the 6 Lancasters were shot down during that battle, and the remaining 2, including Nettleton's, were fairly heavily damaged. Despite that, he carried on and led the remaining 2 Lancasters towards their bombing target, determined to complete their mission. The remaining 2 Lancasters continued towards the target and successfully bombed the factory that they had been tasked with hitting. After they dropped their bombs, they headed back to try and get back across to the UK. Nettleton's companion Lancaster was shot and caught fire and crash landed. Just the one remaining Lancaster bomber continued and managed to limp across the sea, eventually managing to land at Blackpool. For his bravery and determination, Nettleton was awarded the Victoria Cross. Later on in July 1943, Nettleton was involved in another large-scale bombing mission heading towards Turin in Italy. The idea of this mission was to try to knock Italy out of the war. It was a large-scale mission involving 295 Lancaster bombers. During that mission, they were intercepted very heavily by German fighter aircraft, and they took a lot of Lancaster losses that day. During the losses was Nettleton and his crew. They were shot down, crash landed, and the crew were killed. Their bodies were never recovered, and that's why Nettleton is named here on the memorial to the missing at Runnymede. Now, the next man we're going to talk about is somebody who was actually killed during the Battle of Britain. We're going to tell the story of Hilary Richard Lionel Hood. Surname Hood, nickname Robin. Absolutely love that, Robin Hood. And we're going to tell this story now. Okay, so we talked about the fact that the panels here are in orders of the years that these men were killed. So when we come round to the 1940 panel, we're looking right up the top here, right near the top, for the squadron leaders with the RAF who were killed in 1940. And we're looking at the name of HRL Hood. Now you can see, I hope you can see, he has DFC next to his name, which indicates that he was the recipient of the Distinguished Flying Cross. Hilary Richard Lionel Hood was born in 1908, and in 1940, the height of the Battle of Britain, he was flying Spitfires based in RAF Hornchurch. On the 5th of September 1940, he led a squadron of 12 Spitfire to patrol over Kent. During that patrol, they intercepted some German bombers that were heading down the Thames estuary. They took those bombers on head on, and during that attack, they in turn were attacked by German Messerschmitt planes. Over the course of the battle that ensued, 4 of the 12 Spitfires were shot down, and 4 of the 12 didn't return. One of them was Hilary Richard Lionel Hood. Now, exactly what happened to Hood isn't fully known, but based on the accounts of some of the other pilots, it's suggested that he'd had to bail out of his Spitfire. During that time, his parachute became entangled with his aircraft, which, as you can imagine, had fatal consequences. His body was never recovered, and he was listed as missing on the 5th of September 1940. For his bravery on that day during that mission, he was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross, but his body was never recovered, and that's why he's named here on the Runnymede Memorial. Now, whilst there's no one else here with me right now at the memorial, you can tell that this is a fairly well visited memorial. Now, we're only about a week after Remembrance Day, so I suppose there's going to be a few more commemorations around this time of year than maybe there might be regularly. So there's quite a few out there in the middle at the Stone of Remembrance, for example. But when you just walk down the panels, there are so many little memorials and bits put to remember people. We've got wreaths, we've got flowers, we've got photos of some of the men. So for example, here we've got a photo that's been left of Lloyd James Atkin of 150 Squadron, who was killed in November 1941, who's named here on the panel just above where his picture has been left. And all along there are wreaths or crosses that people have left. And here we have another photo of Sergeant William Albert McGinley from 102 Squadron. It's lovely to see that, especially the photos. And in fact, all along I can see some on the, you won't be able to make them out on the camera, but I can see some on the other side as well. There is no one else here right now, but it is also early in the morning. I deliberately arrived just as the memorial here opened. Right, let's go and see if we can work out about getting ourselves up there. Okay, so kind of in the front area where they do kind of some of the sort of ceremonies and stuff, we've got the staircase that leads up only apparently. Oh, so I'm guessing there's another staircase that comes down. We'll find that when we need to. Right, let's go see if we can get up to the top. Okay, so wow, when you come out on the kind of roof of the memorial just here, you've got such spectacular views. I didn't know this was here. But we've got the actual memorial below us. And then you can see for miles, you can see across towards London, the area that was being so heavily bombed during a lot of the fighting, and the area that a lot of these guys died defending is out here in this sort of direction. But you can see for miles from up here. Wow, beautiful. So look, up the top here on this viewing platform feels like a fitting place to end the video, looking down on the memorial of the 20,000 airmen who are named here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, taking a look around the Runnymede Air Force Memorial. I really did. It's the first time I've been here, and actually I really found it fascinating, really enjoyed it. I hope you guys did too. If you did, you can do the YouTube stuff on the screen for me right here. The Air Force Memorial at Runnymede, with the names of more than 20,000 men and women with no known grave from World War II. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.